88.9 FM in Irvine, and this is Get the Funk Out. Standing by to join me is Chelsea Christer, director of Bleeding Audio, a Slamdance official selection. I absolutely love the film. I just want to tell everyone that all the info is on my show blog, getthefunkoutshow.kuci.org. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I love your blue hair. I went and I'm like, said to my daughter, I need your blue wig. And I'm like, oh, I hope she doesn't think I'm making fun of her. But how long have you had blue hair? It's been a while, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a thing, I guess. But I've had blue hair since 2008, actually, in some shape or form. There's been iterations where there's been like, half brown, half blue, just different ways of having some element of blue in my hair. And I don't know, it just feels right. So it's
like a pop in color. I mean, obviously mine is fake, but there's something about blue. I remember my daughter asked me years ago if she could dye her hair. I'm like, sure. And she was in middle school. And I remember seeing her as one of the first kids to go to school. And the next thing I know, all the kids are dyeing their hair like pink and purple and blue. And I think it's really cool. Sorry, I got like hair.
No, I know those wigs, they shed.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think you did the right thing, because when I was in middle school, I wanted to dye my hair a crazy color, and my parents were like, "No, of course not."
Oh.
And no, it's fine, because I feel like now my mom is like the biggest fan of my blue hair, and when I did end up dyeing the top portion brown for one of my first jobs, she was like, "I miss it. You should bring it back."
So, see, that's cool.
Yeah, so it came full circle, but now it's just blue forever. People call it my natural hair color. It's funny. I love it. It was never meant to be like a gimmick. I just feel comfortable in it. So why not?
I think it's cool. I think it's so cool. So Chelsea, how did you decide to make this documentary? It was fantastic, just from beginning to end.
Oh, thank you. So, I had just finished directing a short film, and I had that, and I think most creators feel this, but I had that like finishing a project depression, where I was just like, I really want my next project, but I don't know what it is and what is it going to be. And I really wanted to do a feature. And I've been friends with the Matches for so long. And at the end of 2013, they let me know that they were going to reunite for a single reunion show. And I got super excited about it. I said, this is going to be huge. And they said, oh, hold on, we'll see. And I offered to make promotional videos for them. I thought, okay, this will be a great thing for me to work on and focus on, get some inspiration. But as I was interviewing them, even as an inner circle type person, there was so much I didn't know about their story that I thought was emotionally very compelling, but also as a consumer, just very eye-opening about what my understanding of their success was and what the realities were behind the scenes. And so I thought, from those little interviews for these marketing videos, I decided, I think this is a bigger story. I think this should be a feature. To which, the humble Matches responded, okay, if you want to do that with your time, you can, but we don't think you're interested. Well, we don't think we're
that interesting enough.
Yeah. But yeah, it turned into, 2 Kickstarters and 6 years of production and interviews and editing. But I feel like I proved them wrong.
You definitely did.
Yeah, it was a lot, but we're here. So
cool. Okay, so I have to pause for a second because I'm so itchy.
Yeah. Funny story. I had a job as a bartender in a movie theater, and they wouldn't allow for blue hair. So I said, seems weird, right? Yeah. And so I said, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to wear a brown wig then. Is that okay? So I had the reverse. I actually wore a brown wig, to the point when finally they were like, okay, this is ridiculous. You can stop this now. And I was like,
good. Good.
But wigs are so itchy.
Oh God. I'm I don't think I can last the whole time. So let's talk about the film, because you really were able to capture their personal lives, their struggles, the stuff they were going through. Were they open to all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think each guy has a varying degree to which they communicate about their emotions, you know, and seeing as like I'm a friend of theirs, I handled each kind of emotional dive with as much care and respect as I could, because I
Mm.
knew that in just being friends with them, their relationship to the matches as a band and the
Mhm.
career, every guy had an element of disappointment and some bitterness to it, and
Yeah.
for good reason, I think. But what I did see and what helped inspire the story was seeing the reunions be so successful and seeing them kind of tilt their heads a bit and be like, "Oh, I think this was different than I thought it was," in a
Mhm.
very good way. And
Right.
so when asking them about those highs and lows, I think it made it easier to talk about the lows with them because the reunions had happened and they kind of knew what their own outcome to the story was. But it was a little bit like therapy, you know. I
Definitely.
had to kind of open up some doors that were very staunchly closed, and I'm
Mhm.
very grateful for the openness that they gave to me.
Sure.
I mean, these guys are my family, so like it was something that like, I handled with a lot of care, and they were very generous by not, having anything off limits for me to talk to. But
Right.
it to me it was really important because I feel like so many music documentaries, and this isn't a criticism, but so many music documentaries are so much about like the rock stardom and how great it is, and I
Yeah.
mean, there's a ton of rise and fall stories, but I just feel like there isn't as much talking about the actual emotional impact that this lifestyle can have on people. And that's what compels me is knowing, you know emotion, just like the mental health of everybody, and
Yes.
how these things can affect people. So
Yeah.
so yeah, they were great and tender, and we it was good. I kept it conversational, and I think it ended up
Did.
working out.
And you really helped the fans see them as really who they were and what they're going through. Because as they were saying at one point, people think, oh, they're making all this money and they have all these songs and these albums and they're living in a van,
Yeah.
you know?
And yeah, and I feel like, I'm guilty of that too, when I saw them on magazine covers and I saw them, playing all these shows all over the world, I was like, wow, they're doing so great. Like things must be going so well.
Little do
Like,
you know, smoke and
yeah,
mirrors. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
and one of the bands that really opened my eyes to this, because I feel like they had a level of success that was just like a couple notches above the matches, was Motion City Soundtrack, who are also, they've become good friends of mine as well. And I know Tony Thaxton in particular, he quit Motion City Soundtrack for the same reason Justin quit, the matches at one point, which was tour burnout.
Yeah.
It's a very unsustainable way to make a living.
Sure.
And Motion City Soundtrack, they actually did jump to a major label. They were on, late night talk shows. Like
Right.
they had this appearance. And while they were able to make a living, it was exhausting, and they too called it quits a few years ago, and did like a little reunion run, on the cusp of the apocalypse last year. So it's just, it's an interesting curtain to peek behind. And it's one that I feel like deserves more transparency, especially if you are a conscious consumer and you love your artists.
Right.
I think it's important to know that the outward perception of success, there's a huge dissonance between that and like what's actually going on.
Definitely.
Um, yeah.
I mean, so many struggles between having Napster and, you know, just, doing these shows and then the manager. And I won't even give all the details away, but there's just so many issues. And then, you just captured their personal struggles and the fact that, everybody needs to have a full life, no matter what you do, especially right now in the pandemic.
Yeah.
You got to have other things going on to bring you back to what you really love. Because I think you put more of yourself into something when you have a fuller life and you're taking care of all aspects.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's amazing to be able to have your, full-time job be a thing that you love.
Yeah.
But if that full-time job isn't fulfilling your life needs, then it's not it's not going to be a healthy job for you. And that can cause a bad relationship with the thing that you love most, you know, which, you know, for artists would be music, for me as a filmmaker, you know, and like having basically your dream become your nightmare, like is a really hard thing to psychologically work through.
Definitely.
And I feel like, you know, the rise of the digital revolution, you know, had a huge economic impact, especially in the music industry, and the film industry is experiencing this now too. And I mean, the kind of irony is that Napster has a bigger streaming payout than the streaming services that exist right now, which is funny. I mean, it's marginal, but it's like, you know, the actual streaming royalties that come from Napster are higher than, say, Spotify, you know?
Wow.
And it's like, and it's just, you know, I think the saddest thing that came out of the digital revolution is that there is no longer monetary value for music, which is the art form that we are consuming, right? And so, yeah, everything but the music is like how artists make money on the music, which is, you know, again, not sustainable. Touring, you know, touring relentlessly is an expense of the human body and spirit, you know, and that there's no like sports team where you can just swap out people if they're injured. Like you just have your artists going and using everything that they have to try and make a living. And now, you know, in a pandemic, when artists can't even make money off of touring, like we're losing our artists. So it's a really interesting time. And I hope that the outcome is that more people advocate for music to, you know, come back as a,
I hope so,
as like a just to pay for it, you know? And it's like, I'm not trying to sound like one of those fuddy-duddies, but it's like, there's just such a direct connection between our artists sticking around and like, and paying for music, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think of it like an author writing a book, and then you see your book on eBay and it's selling for $1.59, and you put all your time and energy to write that book, you know, and you're like, ugh, my life was worth $1.59.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, I mean, filmmakers deal with it too. I have a friend, she's a super talented indie director. Her name is Maria Miaya. And she had a film come out called Bring Me an Avocado. She independently released it. And it's up on Amazon. And she like, she was telling me that she got a Google alert for her film. And she was so excited. She was like, oh, great, a Google alert. And it was a piracy site that had listed her film.
That's okay. Don't worry about the dog.
Okay, thanks. That's my dog Sagan. But it was a piracy site that had listed her film. And she was like, oh, great.
Yeah, right.
Have I made it now?
Right. Thought it was like somebody commenting or.
Yeah. But it's like, you know, she's independently releasing it. And so you know, the money that goes to her film through Amazon or anything else, like it goes directly to her. So like, that, you know, she's not some big studio, like that piracy is like, you know, it's tricky to her. And so it you know, it's all art forms really, you know, like we're all kind of suffering that digital age.
I agree. Yeah. What would you like people to know about the film without giving too much away?
That's a good question. For me, we really structured the narrative around the central theme of community. And, you know, music is an art form, but it's also a place, and it's like a way to connect with other people about something. And so I feel like whether or not you know who the Matches are, or, you know, you're a huge longtime fan, I feel like the biggest takeaway that I feel like you can get from it is just to feel that sense of the magic of the community of music that builds up around our artists. But also I hope that you walk away kind of with a better understanding of how hard it is to be in a band, and have a different understanding and respect for that, I guess.
Yeah. And I also looked at it as, look at the brilliance in the band. I think 3 of them were artists. They just pooled all of their talents, but that wasn't just a talent of singing or playing the bass. It was, hey, I have a background in art and I can do this. And it was so much dedication, just such an intensity. And I hope they will definitely see that.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, like secretly, I just want to turn the whole world into Matches fans, of course, you know, but I feel like whether or not you love their music, I feel like you'll walk away from this film at least loving them, you know, and that means a lot to me too. because they were an explosion of art, and no one was more hardworking or dedicated, you know. I kind of say that they're like the perfect band case study because, you know, there was no, you know, it's not like they broke up because of addiction or, you know,
Right.
or any of these other salacious things that can come out of the music industry. They were one of the hardest working bands and they still couldn't break through, you know,
Yeah.
which is, I think, a testament to how difficult it is. And I think that that awareness is important for up and coming artists and
Definitely
consumers
is.
of it, you know.
Did you always see yourself as going to become a filmmaker, or was it something that happened because you were a fan of this band?
Yeah, I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was a teenager. You know, I started I've always been a storyteller is what I have like come to find, you know, and going through and thinking back to those moments where you think, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
And so it started with visual storytelling with photography, and then, you know, morphed into this amalgamation of all my favorite things, which is music and, you know, great visuals and just stories. And I went to film school, and I actually like started in narrative film, and I would like to go back to narrative film.
Nice.
But I, you know, work in the Bay Area. A lot of it is like doc styled brand content. And so that was kind of my day job and my bread and butter. So when the Matches story kind of came across as a potential project, I thought, oh, I've like built these skills as a doc filmmaker. I can apply it to this story, and maybe this can be my first feature.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's been a crazy journey, and and kind of, you know, behind the scenes, you know, working on a film for 6 years is a lot of the same thing. So I've been doing a lot of writing in the background too. So I've got a couple scripts that I would love to do next, you know.
That's
So
awesome. That's fantastic. How have you been with quarantine? Like, do you feel like because you are a creative that has saved you in a lot of ways?
sometimes I feel like almost being a creative in quarantine, it's like I feel like some of the language around it has actually been harder because a lot of people are like, "Oh, great, you're, you know, you're at home, you got not a
Oh,
ton of things to
fine.
do."
You
So
can
of
create and be creative.
exactly. Yeah, it's that whole idea of like, oh, you're at home, you can make things. I'm like, yes, but also the whole world is on fire and horrible things are happening. And it's
Yes.
really hard to sit and focus and create
Yes.
in quarantine. And so I've tried being a little gentler on myself about my productivity, but I have been able to take the space that I haven't been able to have before to like really think inward about myself as a creative and about like how I do spend my time. And I've had like a lot of great epiphanies and moments that I wouldn't have otherwise had because I'm always just going, you know. My day job usually takes me traveling a lot, so there's not a lot of time to think. I've been so consumed by bleeding audio and getting it to where it is today that like having the space to think about what I want to do next was maybe the best part of quarantine for me. And also, you know, I've got my dog and he's been keeping us sane,
That's
taking us out
good.
on walks every day.
That's really good.
But yeah, quarantine's been rough though. I mean, when you have a film that we actually had a world premiere in person at
Oh,
CineQuest in March,
okay.
on March 7th, 2020. So yeah, it
And
was
then a
like
week
literally,
later,
yep. Everything was shut down. They shut down the festival. They announced it the same day that our premiere was. Our premiere is like one of the last things to happen at the festival. And yeah, it was those first few months in quarantine were rough because I thought, oh, this is the start, and
yeah.
everything stopped.
I was hearing people say, "Oh, in 3 months it'll be over."
Right, right.
Right? Were you hearing that?
Oh yeah, I was
Mm.
hearing all kinds of that language. And then I remember seeing film festivals that I had submitted to for like the November timeframe start canceling. And that's when I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
But then Slamdance got to us and selected our film, and it was just, it felt like this
Awesome.
beautiful renewal, you know?
Yeah.
So we're really excited.
I was going to bring that up. You must be on cloud nine. I mean, that is just awesome.
It's huge. I mean, Slamdance is a film festival that I've respected for so long. They have such a great indie spirit, and some of the filmmakers that I've looked up to and admire the most have gotten their start there. So it's so crazy to be a part of that canon. And I hope I hope to get more eyeballs on the film
Very
and
cool.
yeah, it's just such, I just love Slamdance's whole vibe, and the theme this year being Greenlight Yourself couldn't couldn't have applied better to another project, let me
How
tell you.
timely. Crazy. Where can people find out more about you and the film?
Yeah, so you can get all the latest updates about Bleeding Audio through our website, which is www.bleeding-audio.com. We're on all the socials. On Twitter, it's at bleeding_audio, and on Instagram, it's at Bleeding Audio Film. I think it's the same on Facebook. And then for me, I am on Instagram at Chelsea Christer, and then on Twitter, it's at Chelsmark, though if Twitter wants to give me at Chelsea Christer, I would love for them to do that. And then, yeah, I don't really use Facebook anymore, so.
Okay. And what's happening now with the matches? They're disbanded?
So they did a couple subsequent reunion tours for each record. And we were going to do a bunch of shows in conjunction with the film's festival run.
Okay.
But word on the street is they have demoed a whole new record, and the pandemic kind of interrupted the recording process, but I'm hoping that they are able to get back to that over the summer, and maybe we'll get some new music and some new shows on the horizon when it's safe to gather again.
That'd be awesome. And what did they say about the film? I'm assuming they've all seen it.
Yes, they've all seen it.
Okay.
It's a funny kind of blend of feelings. I know for Justin, I think the first time he saw it, it was like a huge therapy session, and he had to like walk away and come back, and now it's given him space to reflect, and he loves it. John Devoto, I think for him, he got a little self-conscious about it at first, because he's like, I'm ridiculous, and we're like, John, that's why we love you. Like, you are you.
Everybody loves you. Yeah,
I know. And then for Matt, I mean, Matt's very, very even keeled, keeps that good steady rhythm. He's like, oh, it's great, love it. And Shawn, I feel like, I don't know if Shawn likes it. I feel like maybe I peeked a little too into the Shawn curtain, but I believe he likes it, but I am sure that having something that's about a time in your life that was a bit tumultuous as a film that people can view is a little, it's a little tough to experience, but I hope he understands that people love it and love him. He has a great fan base who truly, truly love him. And he's also like an artistic genius. So
I was just going to say, as a performer, I was blown away. Just did he do all the writing of the songs, or was it collaborative?
So Shawn is like the songwriter. So he like writes all these songs, and all the guys come and add their textures to it. But for the most part, Shawn writes all the songs and melodies and lyrics. And not only that, but like today he's like a super successful children's book illustrator and author. And yeah, he did like some illustration for Day Beggars. He's doing some great partnerships with his longtime friend Mac Barnett. And like that guy is just so talented. It's kind of annoying, actually.
That's so cool.
But he's doing great. And yeah, I feel like he likes the film, but like it's tough, I guess if someone put my teenage years in a film, I feel the same way.
Of course. But I think you really showed their arc.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about that, don't you think so?
Yeah, I worked really hard to actually sit down and give each guy a character arc, I mean, they naturally had character arcs, but it was important to me to approach this film kind of like a narrative, like where my roots are. My editor and I, when we were in the final stages of refining the film to its lean 90-minute structure, we actually brought in the hero's journey and sat down and took every beat of the match's story and said, does this map to the hero's journey? How do we make it fit this kind of traditional storytelling format? But also, what can we put in to show each match's point in their arc of like where they start and where they end, when it applies to the matches as a band, but also what they come back to at the very end.
Right.
I felt like Shawn's art was very important to me too, being this like tireless creative force that like drove the creative direction and of the whole band, and seeing him be able to come back to it with positivity was really important to me. And same with Justin, you know, I feel like Justin definitely has the most highs and lows throughout the journey of the band. And it still makes me cry, no spoilers, but it still makes me cry kind of at the end, his reflection.
I know.
On the experience as a whole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you captured it really, really well. It was so interesting. And I want to say, for people that aren't familiar with the band, their music, their talent, especially Shawn, the way he sings, it's so cool, so creative. Like you could be an instant fan without even knowing the songs if you love music, right?
I feel that way. I feel like they were so ahead of their time and unique. And what is great about a lot of Shawn's lyricism is he always has something to say, and he makes it accessible, you know. That first record, I felt like, you know, being a teenager in Colorado and just dying to get out and try something different, you know, that whole first record just spoke to me. And then, you know, as you kind of age and start learning more about the world around you, Decomposer fits that narrative, and Abandon Hope even more, you know. Abandon Hope came out in 2008, and, you know, there was a lot going on between 2007, 2008, and a lot of that unfortunately still applied today, but there's a lot of, you know, really smart lyrics in there that, yeah, it's just great. All of it. Love it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting to know you, and congratulations. And I'm rooting for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was really a great chat.
My pleasure.